What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity in collaboration with HashPack. We have some Hashgraph community showcases for you guys today. This is going to be the first iteration of this. Super excited to have a pretty decent lineup for you guys today. A lot of really great builders across the Hedera ecosystem and even beyond. With our first guest, we've got Pixi, but we've got Pixi for the first half hour here. HashPack's going to walk us through some updates that they've got going on, as well as kind of describing kind of the overall ethos of what we're doing here. TarBot and Hashal are coming on at 1 o'clock p.m. Heisen AI will be on at 1:30 and Bonzo Finance at 2. But that being said, we're going to get the ball rolling here. I've got Tom from Pixi. So Tom, I like to start these out with just a little bit of an intro. Can you give us an intro of yourself and tell us what you do within Pixi?
Sure, no worries. One, just real quick, thanks for having me, and May, congratulations on this sponsorship, and really looking forward to this series. And I agree, today's lineup is a banger. So my name is Tom Bega. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Pixi. Our LLC is called Pix Labs LLC. And the business is based in Wyoming, although myself, I'm remote in California, and my co-founder Hank He is remote in New York City. So we have both coasts covered. I got into Hedera and crypto in general. I should say my first exposure to crypto was doing an analysis of use cases from an enterprise perspective in 2017, just looking at the value the blockchain could bring. And at the time, we just did not like gas fees and the baggage that came with it. So I always sort of kept an eye on the marketplace, and it was around late 2020, early 2021 that I became aware of Hedera, and then got involved in the community. And one of the first projects that I interacted with on Hedera was a young team of 4 people that were starting a wallet that eventually became HashPack. So May and I go way back to sort of the origin point of when HashPack got started. Since then, the Pixi team started to come together in late 2022. Really sort of looking at the NFT space and how things had sort of grown up on Hedera around NFTs, but we really wanted to sort of focus on how could we think about bringing in other chains. How could we basically make Hedera more involved from a cross-chain platform? If you take a look at like a marketplace aggregator like OpenSea or Magic Eden now, they support multiple networks, but they never support anything that's what I would consider to be a DLT based network. And so we want to sort of change that up and bring in a bunch of other ones. Where we started with the old favorites. So we first started with the integration of Ethereum and Polygon, and then we also recently completed the integration of Solana. And so now what we have is our app, which is in a closed beta at this point in time. We have the ability to interact with both the OpenSea ecosystem as well as the Magic Eden ecosystem. And that can be done through creation of a Pixi profile, which is essentially a wallet itself. It's a multi-chain wallet. And but if you look at, you were just showing sort of the founders tokens, the NFTs that we're currently selling on the website. Those can all be interacted directly from your third-party wallet. So we've integrated now HashPack for HBAR. We also have MetaMask, which will let you basically interact for Ethereum or Matic or USDC. And then we also have Phantom from Solana that'll let you basically interact with Sol or Matic as well. So that's so if you click on one of those and you basically go through the pay process, you can basically just see that it'll just call up specifically that third party wallet if you have the wallet extension set up in your browser.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I know that even before we kind of hit the go live button here, we were kind of talking about the need for almost like a level playing field, right? For a network like Hedera, You've got all of these amazing NFT communities that have been here, and really, I think it's fascinating because, like, if you look at what the market did after, the peak in 2021, there was still kind of this renaissance aspect that happened in Hedera with NFTs. But then you have to consider, like, okay, so what's missing? And I think one of the things that's missing is a level playing field for Hedera NFT communities to be, or artists or whatever it may be, to be showcased alongside, the Ethereum communities, alongside the Solana communities. Can you talk a little bit about this? Kind of hits home to me too, Tom. And I know I mentioned it, like we had like kind of an MVP app that we built out. It was very similar. And I was like, are we going to get funding for something like this? And then we kind of went a different direction from the media standpoint. But you guys have just said, screw it, we're going to do it regardless. And this is necessary to have in this space. And talk about that ethos and what you think this represents for a community like Hedera.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that a lot of friends and colleagues and advisors, the people that I talk to regularly from the community, are creators themselves, and I think that was part of the driving force behind why we want to be looking at the ability to go multi-chain. You can only be the big fish in a small pond for so long, and at some point, the water gets stale, and you need to find new rivers, new avenues that you can basically branch out to. And so we basically started with sort of the thought experiment. What would the interest be in a Dead Pixels Ghost Club, say on Polygon or on Solana? Could that community basically build and branch out there? Or would that community be better off building and branching out to something like an Algorand and an Aptos and an Avalanche? And so, in having the conversations with the creators, it was interesting. Some creators want to go the Solana route. Other creators want to go the opposite route. They want to go to the other small communities and basically build a network mechanism. And so, essentially what we started thinking about was, all right, well, if we had an aggregator that basically allows us to essentially have a single place where you can basically go and shop for NFTs, regardless of what network it's on, right? You can either search by a network specifically, or you could basically search by certain attributes of collections. That would allow for basically have sort of this level playing field that you were talking about, and that was sort of the driving force behind that. Then the other side of that is that we also need to have an ability for creators to really sort of build out their product lines, and to build out their communities in the mechanism that they think works for them, rather than trying to dictate, this is how you should do it. And so the perspective, the reason why we basically started building our landing page the way that we did, was this basically becomes the genesis now of a cross-chain launchpad, right? So the idea there would be, people can bring in, if they want to basically be building out to Solana, they can basically have a place to be able then to sort of launch a collection. And let's say it's all minted on Hedera. They can mint everything on Hedera, have everything basically be done at extremely low cost, and then you can then make use of products like XP.network, which is essentially an NFT bridge. And now you can basically take a portion of that collection, wrap it, and put it into the Solana environment. You can also take a portion of that and wrap it and put it into the Algorand environment. And so now, essentially, you can basically go and have a launchpad where you're basically selling to all these different communities. But at the heart of it, all those NFTs are all basically minted on one network. Doesn't matter which one, but they're all minted on one network. So now when you want to basically extract utility, people then basically take those NFTs, unwrap them, bring them back into that Hedera community, where you basically now can have a variety of different activities to basically unlock further value from those NFTs. And that's the second half of what we're building with PixFi. And that's where the Fi comes in. And it's all of the DeFi tools that you would need to be able for creators then now to further extend and unlock additional utility around their collections.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting when you think about you kind of alluded to the preaching to the choir stuff that seems to happen. And this isn't, a Hedera NFT community issue. like what you get to a certain point, this isn't just a Hedera issue. This isn't just it's a block. It's like an industry wide issue where like you get to a certain point where you're basically only talking to your own audience. And it's like, okay, the entire industry is not necessarily going to grow that way. We always talk about interoperability and we never really see it. I'm always more curious, being that we've talked to a lot of different ecosystems out there, one thing I find in common is that builders are very similar in their mindset, and a lot of communities are very similar in their mindsets when it boils down to it. So like once you have a platform for these different NFT communities to start interacting with each other in meaningful ways, then it really gets interesting because the silos and the walls kind of start tearing down naturally without having to shill a network or without having to shill a whatever. You let people do what they naturally do anyways, which is kind of start talking to each other, right? And finding synergy and doing all that other stuff. So should we expect like over time on a platform like Pixi for there to be means of different communities like actually communicating or messaging or commenting or whatever that may be with each other?
Yes. No, I mean, that's a great point. So one thing that we really want to be able to unlock is really to make use and leverage the Discord in that way where we can basically bring people together, right? So there'll be, there'll be community or focused, things. So, there'll be an Algorand chat and there'll be a Hedera chat. But then there'll always will be sort of, more general things. And I think over time, what we're going to start seeing is we're going to start seeing a lot more analytics coming into NFTs that are leveraging AI. I've been having some great conversations with TarBot, which has some interest in this, and I know that the HGraph guys also have some interest in building some analytical AI tools as well. And so if you can start thinking about, the real value then from that perspective is, so let's just say you basically open a query, show me all the monkey pics across 12 chains. Well, boom, now you're going to be able to then take a look at all of those collections, and then you can essentially start making decisions about what you want to invest in and why. And where you might be able to best leverage that. And again, I always bring this back to, it really, I think that the one thing that the creators don't have a lot of participation in at this point are the DeFi tools. Most of the NFT fi protocols that exist are sitting on Ethereum, and they're basically run by traders, and they're not, a lot of the terms and conditions of these protocols don't necessarily favor the creators themselves, right? Because there's ways around royalties. There's mechanisms to play around with trading fees and so forth. And so what we want to be able to do is have a set of tools that's basically, we're going to basically build this into the Hedera EVM. And so, right away, there's no more validators sniping good deals because they can see the mempool. We want to basically make sure that that we've got sort of a fair level playing field, and then it's really going to come down to the creativity of the creators themselves. We're happy to basically use Pix as a staking reward. If a creator wants to come in. So we've got a portion of our tokenomics that are set aside specifically for the ecosystem. So if creators want to be able to basically create sort of their own, let's just say there's a new token called Boon. And all the Hanger guys basically want to basically have a sort of a staking protocol for that, where they basically create a liquidity pool, but where but the NFTs and the tokens themselves are basically being staked up. Now that can basically earn some additional emissions from in terms of the Pix token. But the other aspect of that is now that becomes a lending pool itself, right? So there's a lot of really creative things that you can do with NFT DeFi when you're basically looking at combining a fungible token with a non-fungible token, and it basically gives you a little bit more option space to really sort of explore the utility. And if you look at our roadmap, you can see the different classes of DeFi tools that we want to bring in play. So in the very at the very start, we would just want to start with simple peer-to-peer lending and NFT rentals. This will start helping communities understand how those processes work, and then we just add complexity quarter over quarter as we basically build out these other tools.
Yeah, one thing that I find, that has, well, especially if watching the past few years with um, artists and the way that they've kind of launched their NFT collections is like, and this has happened like almost, I don't want to say every time, because there are certainly artists that are just like, I'm just an artist and I'm just releasing my artwork and that's what I'm doing.
Mhm.
But a lot of the times we kind of see it's like, I've got to invent something to keep this community engaged somehow. And I think it really does become, and this isn't just like NFTs, this is like, you could think like tokenization too. Like, okay, something's tokenized. Now what can I do with it?
Right.
It's a similar thing with NFTs where it's like, what can I do with my NFT? And when you start, what I think might be really interesting to watch with what you guys are doing over time is you start measuring the ways that these communities are interacting.
Right.
It becomes really powerful for maybe a project on Hedera that might have synergy with a project on Algorand or that project's community, to think about some of the ways that those interactions occur, and some of the, maybe even the financial, like which is why you guys have the FI aspect on the back end, some of the actual things you can inject in for these projects to do to leverage, not leverage, maybe that's not the best word,
Mhm.
but to combine these different aspects of community and things like that. When you get into the actual, what can you do with your NFTs on a
So
platform?
yeah, so and this is this is where I've paid very close attention to what May and her team have done with the token pack, because so the token that we're going to be creating is called Pix, and Pix is going to be a loyalty rewards token, right? So as you participate in different activities within the DeFi space, as well as buying and selling, trading NFTs through the platform, you'll be able to earn that token in reward. The difference here is that because we're going to be multi-chain, and because we don't want to appear that we have favoritism towards Hedera, the Pix token is actually it is the gas token for the protocol itself. Now, a couple layers underneath, when we have to pay the Hedera network for different transactions, we're basically doing a conversion on the fly, right? So Pix to HBAR, and then we're paying those HBAR tokens. So we're abstracting that away. So from the general user, they're using the platform PixFi, and the only token that they need to have to participate in that ecosystem is the Pix token. And so we're not playing favorites with anyone else, even though all of those DeFi tools are actually built on Hedera itself. In this way, we're able to abstract it. One additional thing that we're doing to be able to, and this is going to answer your question about how can you basically measure and understand the participation of the community. At the point of our INO, we will have equal pools of the Pix token, which is a polynative token. That means that Pix is basically minted on Hedera, it's minted in Ethereum, it's minted on Solana, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we've done is we've designed a token transfer protocol that's exactly like USDC, right? So we can basically burn a test mint a token from one network to another. So now you can have, now you can basically. So when you look at those dice, that Hedera dice will basically let you buy the whitelist token that basically will airdrop to you Hedera Pix. But if you own the Ethereum one, you'll basically get Ethereum Pix. And then within our profile, we have basically that transfer protocol, and you can basically move tokens from one network to another at a click of a button. And so the whole idea there is that we wanted to have a sort of a mechanism where people can basically one-stop shop, and they can also take advantage of a lot of different DeFi activities, arbitrage, and so forth. And if we're lucky, Pix becomes sort of more of a universal token for NFT value in general. And at some point, maybe some creators basically just start valuing at the original mint. They just start valuing their collections in Pix itself. And that again would just sort of further help sort of drive that community. So you could just look at a snapshot of where the PIX token is residing at any one point in time over its emission schedule, and that'll give you an idea about where the activities lie. So when we basically do launch our INO, before we do the airdrop, we would basically set up liquidity pools on Hedera. We would set them up on Ethereum. So a Uniswap. We'd set one up over on Solana. Those would be sort of the big three. But then I can also basically look at centralized exchange listings, and not just look at listing just the Hedera version. I could also list the ERC20 version and the SPL20 version as well. And so we could basically go and make sure that we have that liquidity and focus that back out. And that's the whole purpose of the INO itself, is basically to create that liquidity pool for our token engine, and basically make sure that all that liquidity goes back out into the marketplace so that users can leverage that.
May, if you have anything, feel free to inject in. But I think that one thing that I kind of want to touch on, which I don't know, maybe you guys have anticipated this. I'm sure you guys have. We do see obviously like cross-chain token launches, things like that. But when you tie it into kind of cross-chain NFT marketplaces, things like that as well, on top of it, it almost kind of by default gamifies different communities, because you can see where the activity is. And I guess if I were doing some of the Pixi stuff, and I'm certainly not, so I don't know if you guys are doing this, but like if I was looking at that and measuring where I'm seeing more activity from the Pixi token, and I can kind of mesh that into the NFT activity that's kind of going on, it almost like allows for a little bit of friendly competition between these different networks to see like if there's a lot more traction going on in Solana and it's not going on in Hedera, or if it's not going on in Algorand or wherever. You can kind of put out a call to action type stuff, or just release those metrics and be like, hey, everybody's got to step up their game a little bit here, because this is what's going on, and the blockchains don't lie, obviously. So
yeah, well, and also notice that we chose a founders token that's based on a D20 DAI. So you were absolutely right when you said gamification. That's actually that's one of the underpinnings of it. Each founders token is unique. Now we don't. So the chain symbol itself is a null point from the face that you can see, but there's a symbol, and so you're seeing a couple here. This set, you're seeing all the golden dragons, which are the rarest. They're the ones you should be hunting for. But then there's a hollow dragon, and then there's like 8 different moon phases. But then there's as you go around the face, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 numbers. There's a sequence of 5 numbers that you can see, and those and it goes clockwise. And in that sequence, all of those sequences across the entire collection are unique. And so there's going to be a lot of gamification. So we're actually playing around with some ideas about actually having lotteries for giveaways, make it like a Powerball style. If nobody gets it in the first week, then it basically everything goes into the pool for the following week until somebody wins the jackpot. So there's just I think there's a lot of fun things that we can do here. So that was part of the design. So thank you for catching that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess one of the final questions I have, I guess I have 2. The first one would be like, it has been a pain point for individual projects to reach out into these different ecosystems to get people excited.
It is painful, yes. It's very hard, especially especially with shitcoin casino going on in Solana right now. It's like I have to basically just tweet things into threads about Brett Gold, right? It's about the only way I can get any bandwidth. So it's very challenging trying to get a hold of some influencers, and big NFT collectors. Most of the really big NFT shillers on these other chains are all in meme coins right now. Nobody's even talking about NFTs on those other chains. And that's why I said in the very beginning, I expect that we basically, when we open up to Algorand, Aptos, Avalanche, we're going to have a lot more traction in those communities right now, because those are all communities that are basically on the outside looking in. And so I think they're gonna definitely respond a little bit different than the people on the Ethereum, Polygon, and Solana going, oh, another aggregator, great. And so until those DeFi tools are actually in place, and they have a casino to come play in, I think that's when things will change there.
Yeah, I think the biggest strong suit, like especially from a platform standpoint, or HashPack from a wallet standpoint, I know that we certainly try to do it as much as we can, is to like showcase value to different projects just by like mentioning them in a tweet and like highlighting what they're doing, even though they might not necessarily have integration or whatever else it is. Like, be a platform, be like, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to showcase what you guys are doing, and hopefully get some of that community pool to get people interested enough into looking into it, and then being like, we want integration, we want X, Y, and Z, because you guys went the extra step and actually talked about us. I think that's pretty cool, Tom. So I would love it to ask you as well, like any forward-looking statements you might have, what's coming down the pipeline in the very near term here, and thank you for taking the time out today to talk with us.
Yeah, other than just to tell people that, look, I would just highly recommend people to go and grab their founders token now. It's $60. I mean, at the current price of HBAR for HBAR variants, it's what, or maybe around 750 HBAR. But that token will have a resale value of twice that, by design. So if you don't get the roll that you want, you can just keep re-rolling, and there's going to be a mechanism for you to be able to basically to resell those. Those tokens are also are going to basically allow you to access the faucet. So we've allocated 50 million of our 2 billion tokens to Discord faucet that we'll be creating and launching towards the end of the summer. And you're basically going to get, for every NFT you have, you're going to get about 10 tokens a pull a day. And if you have full sets, there are multipliers so I'll let you to bring in more. So even if you don't participate in the INO, you're still going to be able, over the course of the faucet being open, you'll be able to generate about 1,500 or more tokens per NFT that you have. So I think it's going to be a real good value and good opportunity for people who want to basically start getting involved in NFT DeFi. It's a good place to start.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank, before we move into the HashPack segment, I'm going to give a shout out to HashPack here, and we're going to get involved here as far as what kind of these initiatives and these showcases are going to be all about. But thank you to HashPack for helping us to put this one together. And Tom, thank you so much for coming on and sharing Pixi.
Awesome. Yeah, Ryan, we should probably have some chats after this, since there's probably a lot of things that you've thought about that I might be able to learn from.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, no, feel free. I would love to, and I'm looking forward to bringing you guys back on to one of these showcases in the future as well. And thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks so much, guys. Ciao.
See ya. All righty, so that was kind of our first showcase that we did within this initiative, and I guess we'll get into the weeds here with HashPack. And first off, thank you guys for, well, number one, I should mention, obviously, HashPack and Genfinity extending the partnership that we've had. HashPack sponsoring a lot of kind of these showcases that we're going to be doing in the future. I guess I'll maybe lead it from my ethos here, that this is kind of about allowing for projects that are in the Hedera ecosystem to maybe have a platform on a consistent basis to highlight milestones, to highlight updates that they may I feel like they can move the needle a little bit more on kind of a more of a panel type thing. We might get into some cross-chain stuff here in the future. I know May and Tyler, we've talked about this stuff as well, but May, maybe walk us through a little bit of where you kind of see the ethos here with showcasing the positivity, the projects, and what everybody's building in the Hedera ecosystem and beyond.
Well, I think Tom has it really like shows kind of the thing that we want to do in Hedera is engage with the community and make the community stronger. Tom came out of the same community that HashPack came out of, which is Club HBAR, and basically we've always been focused on just like who is building on this network and how can we improve their voice? How can we make them so that they have a place to talk and to showcase what they're doing. I've always tried to retweet announcements from projects or call them out on spaces when I go out. When we were talking about our strategy for HashPack this year, one of the things that we thought we were lacking in is the marketing side. We're not a very active or like marketing focused team. We kind of make the product and then we let the product speak for us. But there's definitely an opportunity to use our position in the ecosystem as connectors to help boost the message of all the projects and the users that are in it. So I think that this spaces, I hope that it will be a place for projects to come in and strut their stuff, show what they're about, and then also for the community to come listen to it and ask questions and like take notes, figure out how they can get involved, figure out what they're excited about, or what they can be excited about, and just engage with people more. That's really what I think we can do. As a team, HashPack, we typically just try our best to talk to the community. So you can reach out to us on Twitter, on Discord, on our support tickets, on the website or in Discord. And we always try to listen to what people are saying. And this spaces, I hope, is one more way for people to talk with us. I think it's really powerful to have a place where you're live and potentially answering questions and responding to comments and things like that. So I really hope that that's going to be the thing. And I don't want to just talk about HashPack for like 2 hours every 2 weeks. I want to bring in everybody else who's building on this network and give them a place to talk, right? So that's what I hope that this space will be. And Ginfinity, Ryan, you guys have so much experience with running collaborative spaces. That's why we wanted to team up with you and just like leverage our strengths as different companies, different projects. So like that's going to be really fun. We've got a few announcements here for HashPack specifically in the half hour that we've got. And Tyler's going to talk about what we've been doing on the product side. But just to start things out, we are going to run in the next spaces. So the one at the end of this month, we're going to run an AMA for HashPack, which we've never done in the history of HashPack. We've never done an AMA, partly because it's just a lot of work to run an AMA. And we didn't really have a spaces or a place that we like had as a normal way to just talk and kind of answer questions. We kind of did it like person to person inside of the community. And that's typically how we did it. But we'll try it out. We'll see if people like it. So if you've got questions, we haven't figured out exactly how to submit questions yet, but probably ping us on Twitter or just ask us in Discord directly until we figure something out. And we'll probably post an announcement on Twitter on how you can submit your question. But we'll run with that. Anything you have about HashPack, about where we're going, what you see, the nitty gritty of it, that would be really cool. So yeah, hoping to get a lot of cool questions from the community, and then we'll run through those next in the next 2 weeks at the end of the month. So yeah, check your calendars, make sure that you tune in.
Awesome. I know, Tyler, we're going to be going through some updates as well here. And I think one thing that we have talked about behind the scenes, May, is, in time, the way that these kind of showcases like formulate, like we want to get the community involved and give the community a voice. Because there's obviously a ton of projects building in Hedera. And we want to try to figure out the best way to make it fair for projects to be able to come on to highlight. And I think one of the things that we talked about was how do we get, maybe it's like what already exists, which is like the backpack holders that you guys have through the gold and the purples involved in that process, to be able to kind of figure out which projects, we want to be bringing on not on a consistent basis, but like based on what the community is like wanting to see. And obviously that's going to be a trial and error type thing, just like everything else is in the space, but at least to start that process off in a way that kind of makes sense. So looking forward to helping to contribute with that as well. Tyler, I know I'll ramble if we don't get into some of the updates here. So feel free to take the ball.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to highlight kind of some of the things we're doing from a more product point of view to kind of empower all these creators and projects. So one of the recent updates, the last update actually, was a update to the address book. This update enabled syncing of contacts. So when you re-import your account on a new instance of HashPack, like on a new device, new computer, your contacts come with you. And this is similar to how we do like the themes, the profiles, the currency, and so on. And this update was part of the user profile system that we have. So this system is responsible for token gating your user profile picture, your username in HashPack, and this system is available to dApps as well. So like you may have noticed on like SaucerSwap or Centex or Amari or a bunch of other dApps that when you log into them, your profile picture shows up, your your username, your HBAR domain username shows up. That's all powered by this user profile system. And part of that now is the contacts. So your contacts follow you through the ecosystem. So if a dApp wants to, enable a way for you to do something with one of your other contacts, it can easily do that. You can also mark a contact as private. I'll mention that if you don't want it to sync. But this sort of a system is something we've really been building out for a while now, and it's really cool to see your kind of user information follow you through all these dApps through the ecosystem. It's like Hedera. It's kind of on a path to decentralization. So currently, it's mostly housed within HashPack. The ability to manage that. It's going to become more and more decentralized over time once we kind of get it all squared away. But I think that's a pretty huge thing for just having a identity within the ecosystem is a really powerful thing. That's kind of the main kind of update I wanted to touch on was just that profile stuff.
Yeah, it's something that we've kept under wraps for a while. We kind of just have been mulling over how we want to do it and whether or not people would like it. And the biggest thing here, I think, is we're hoping to help people and dApps connect to each other more. I think that it will be really cool to be able to share things more easily in the ecosystem, and this will hopefully provide a way for people to do that. I think it's really awesome that when you log into SaucerSwap or you log into Centex, that your profile picture follows you and your username, if you have an .hbar or .hangry username or something like that, it follows you too. And there are some projects that have built out like leaderboards where you can see the activity of different accounts and they can be ranked on leaderboards. And if you have an HBAR username or your profile picture set, then that shows up on the website. And I think that that's a way of showing that you are part of this community, that, hey, this guy who has the Hangry Barboons or the Dead Pixels profile picture that I recognize now because I've seen them on multiple sites or multiple leaderboards, they're pretty cool, rather than some anonymous 0.0.12345 kind of address, which you can still do if you want. But I think that providing options for people to connect to each other is going to be really cool. And I think that that's really what we want to do with these user profiles, and make a platform that, again, one day will be decentralized. One day any dApp can use it, but also any other service that wants to create those profiles or update those profiles, hopefully we'll be able to make something that is both robust and easy enough to use. That will just be a thing. So that's really where our like general plans are for the like latest and greatest of HashPack.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've heard consistently is the user experience, right? And I can remember back this might have even been like well over a year ago. I mean, Kevin Cage, one of the guys that I've known in this space for a long time, was talking about just how great the user experience is within HashPack. And I think maybe Tyler, just as we're kind of sitting here, like talk about, you know, all of the kind of decisions that you guys have made on the individual user experience and maybe how you see that making sure that individual user experience is as seamless as possible so that in time, you know, the communication between different members. I mean, this kind of alludes me to believe that you guys are building out some infrastructure here to be able to start communicating back and forth and all sorts of other things. I mean, when I think address book, usually when you have an address book, you want to contact and reach out to other people and do certain stuff. So without getting too much into the weeds, maybe walk us through how important it is to build out the singular user experience to be able to figure out how connective user experience ends up working.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is very iterative. You know, we start with a design. What will we really start talking about at first, and then we work up a design, implement that, see how it feels, make changes based on, you know, just using it internally, and then a lot of the kind of like from there is user feedback, you know, things like being like, oh, it'd be nice to have like an address book button on this page, or like this kind of screen is a bit awkward. Things like that just people say, like we you know, we take pretty close to the heart. We look at it every day, you know, like we're the ones responding to this stuff directly. So we really hear what people are saying. And speaking to the kind of bigger picture part you mentioned there is definitely a bigger picture in the works. I can't get into it. It's too early, but there's, you know, we want to connect the ecosystem together. That's our goal, right? And there's definitely some cool stuff coming that will really, I haven't seen in other wallets that we'll take this stuff to the next level for sure. Yeah.
And like, we're going to be doing, like Tyler said, like it's iterative. We're going to do piece by piece, a feature here, a new thing here. And we typically just like see if the community likes it and what the community talks about and what they ask us, right? So like, we don't want to spend a year on something behind the scenes and come up with this monolithic platform that does something amazing that we think, and then have nobody be like, well, we don't really want, you know, we don't really want this, right? So we come out with these features and then we listen to the community. So one thing I'm really grateful about, and I talk about this a lot on all of the platforms that I, you know, like the spaces and stuff, is like how vocal our HashPack community is and how much we cherish their feedback and how much we use their feedback. It really makes a huge impact on what we build and what we're excited about, and you know, what you guys see in HashPack, you know, 3 months down the line. I actually have a blog post a blog that I just started, and I talk about these things, about specific features that exist in HashPack because our users said that they needed it. I even have a screenshot, I think, of a Twitter post that says, "Hey, we need a max button for HBAR, for the swap feature or for sending." And then, you know, lo and behold, we eventually build that out, and now it's in the HashPack. And you don't even think that it was a user feature, but actually a lot of the stuff that we have, especially quality of life things, come from user feedback. So yeah, that's really the key here, is like, we're really excited about this and we want the community to be excited about this, and we're listening.
Oh, I got to get better at unmuting myself. I think one thing that we've also talked about, and again, this is kind of just I mean, from our end, as we're kind of start these showcases for project showcases, it's not just projects. I mean, we want to get to the point where we're showcasing like community members as well, because I think it's one thing that's certainly, like, without community and without community members, nobody would be using, you know, these platforms, these wallets. So it really does come down to like the individual user. And you guys have talked about, and we've just begun exploring, like, how do we highlight community members that are maybe like community champions of like the HashPack community. And you guys are kind of starting to roll this out a little bit with, I know obviously I'm going to mispronounce, but Cosmodius here. sharing insightful videos to creating a plethora of amazing memes. Always there to champion a HashPack cause. Continue to build, learn, grow together. You guys are kind of on the lookout for all the community members out there. I know that are doing, consistently supporting HashPack, the initiatives, and the entire ecosystem. Can you maybe tell us just a little bit about that, May?
Yeah, we have a really strong community, and we've always had people who are so excited about what we're building that they meme us, they make images, they make infographics, things like that, and we always appreciate it on our side, but we've never like had a chance to sort of showcase it or like call people out. It's because we're not a marketing team. We've got a product guy, we've got a dev guy, we've got a security guy, we got me, I'm more project management or relations, right? We don't have a marketing guy on the team that and so like I think that going forward we want to push out our really active community members who are making really great memes, really great videos. Cosmic is absolutely fantastic. And the thing I love about Cosmic too is it's not just HashPack. It's like the community. This one that you're showing on the screen right now is HMonkey and HashPack, right? And we are actually going to be doing some more collaborations with HMonkey, and hopefully that'll be exciting for the community too. We'll have some announcements in the future on that. But like just showcasing our community, our ecosystem, and like boosting everybody up at the same time. I think that that's going to be great. So yeah, focusing on the people who are contributing in our community, who are helping out in the Discord, who are spreading the word and spreading positivity. I really want to do more on that front. And if anybody in the community has any ideas of how we can do that, reach out to us, reach out to me, say, hey, I've got this idea. I want to do this sort of thing. Can HashPack support that? Would love to listen to you. It will be hard to listen to everybody, but I'll at least like listen and see what you have. And if we can act on it, I would love to do that because I really feel strongly about empowering our community. And that's really like kind of my thing here. So would love to find ways to engage with people more, with the creators in the space, with the people who are just memeing. I think that's fantastic. There are a bunch of people who are influencers in their own right in their ecosystem, and I hop on their spaces or I do stuff with them on the side, and I would love to just like start talking about them more too. So yeah,
that's awesome. I'm gonna try this because I don't know if I've ever done like an audio one, and we might not be able to hear it, but I'm gonna listen in after and see if we can hear this. I don't know if there's audio on this one, but I'm gonna try to play it.
I think you got to press the.
Oh, it's working. I can hear it.
Oh, you can hear it. Can't hear it from my side.
But I'm gonna test it after this. I'm gonna listen back to this video and see if I can hear it after the fact. But yeah, and I think one of the things that we have talked about, May, a little bit before was the collaboration aspects that you guys have facilitated so far through because it's a really powerful thing for like maybe a newer project or a project that already exists to be like, without getting into numbers, maybe I'll like allude to it, like the backpack holders that exist out there right now and some of the collaborations you guys have already done and wanting to do more of those. And it's also a thing where it's like, maybe projects don't know that this is something that you guys are willing to consistently do.
Yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about that, because this is kind of one of the goals of this is more collaboration, almost getting back to the old days of like Hedera when we used to see so many different projects collaborating and stuff like that, but getting back to that original ethos of kind of growing the pie together.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done a ton of collaborations with projects. Even recently, we did a giveaway with Bonzo. We've got a giveaway with Pixi that's that's happening right now. I think check our Twitter. But we're doing a giveaway, and the way that this works, and the way that we've empowered our community is like, if you have a gold HashPack, which shows you're an early supporter, then you get access to a lot of the giveaways that we do. And for the users who have it, who are part of our like core community, they get the benefit of participating in these airdrops, in these giveaways, in these promotions. And if you're a project in the space, then you get access to the most kind of active people in the HashPack, in the Hedera ecosystem, we basically like we do a giveaway with a project on Hedera called Bounty Block, which has hookups into Twitter and other platforms, and basically lets the users subscribe to that project's Twitter and do a bunch of challenges, and then you get put into the whitelist for the giveaway. That's typically how we do it, and that's like basically anyone who wants to promote their project on Hedera can reach out to us, and we help them to gain popularity, gain some eyes, and the users get to benefit from it. And yeah, I think that that's really a fun way of keeping people involved. And I am kind of sad that we haven't done a really great job of showing like the community that this is what we've been doing with the gold hash packs. And if you've been part of our channel in the Discord, then we'll notify you about all the giveaways that we're doing. And like, yeah, it's been a really fun time. We've had lots and lots of giveaways over the past, like maybe at least once a month, sometimes more. So
I know that we're trying to figure out the best way as well to kind of, and this is going to be like an overtime type thing to try to figure out the best process here, but I don't know if we're going to have like some sort of a form. We definitely want to get the backpack holders involved, obviously, from like a voting standpoint. There's all sorts of kind of ideas that we're floating a little bit behind the scenes for what these showcases kind of look like over time. And I guess for those just joining right now, we did have Pixi on for the first half hour. We've got Heisen AI coming on. We've got TarBot and Hashal. We've got Bonzo coming on. I guess in the interim, May, where's the best place for projects or for projects to maybe reach out, for community members to reach out, because we are going to try to put something in place that kind of integrates all these different types of things. But in the interim, I mean, is it the Discord for HashPack? I mean, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Discord channel, the Discord server is the best place to kind of chat with us, get involved. If you come in and you say you represent a project, then we'll throw you into the, we'll give you a developer or a creator role, and then you get put into a specific channel for that. We're definitely going to try to find ways to engage with the community more, get them to participate more in like voting in like who gets on these spaces or nominating people on these spaces. That's things that we're trying to figure out how to do it, and just make it more fun, make it more interactive for people, let people talk about it. That is definitely a thing. Also, I know that people are really wanting to hear about pack updates and what we're going to be doing in terms of our token and those kind of things. And so we have an AMA in 2 weeks. If you have questions, throw them into our Discord or DM us on Twitter or whatever. We'll probably find a way for people to submit it officially too. But that's a great way to ask questions about it. Definitely, we would love to share our answers with that, what we're doing around that. But yeah, if you're curious about that, please reach out and let us know what you want us to answer, and we will answer it in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, and I think just to reiterate again, like this has been something that I can even remember back like 2.5 years ago, the community kind of wanting almost like a content calendar or community calendar and things like that, which it's a big undertaking, obviously, to put in place. And this, you know, they weren't directly asking HashPack to put together a content or content calendar. But one of the goals of this, obviously, is that there's so many projects with so many updates on a consistent basis. And it's like, how do you get that? We were talking about it with Tom from Pixi. Like, how do you get, like, it's great to release something on your own Twitter. But at the end of the day, like, it gets to a certain point where you're basically just releasing it to your own Twitter and your own Twitter audience. Like, how do we get it to like hey, this exists. We're at least doing these every other week. If you've got updates, if you've got milestones, you're building on Hedera. If you're a community member, if you're X, Y, and Z, this is a place you guys can come and like showcase, like, and actually showcase, like share your screen, walk us through what you're building, and highlight it. And I would even love, you know, I know that we're going to be doing these within the Hedera ecosystem, but I would love to put these together and give people, you know, the ability to showcase across different ecosystems, different chains. Like, I think it'd be awesome. So yeah, this exists. So for everybody out there watching, what we're doing does exist. So reach out and
And it's not just like an introduction to your project too. Like if you have big updates, if you have some new feature on your platform, on your site that you want to show off to the community and just say, hey, let's walk you through this thing. Like by all means, that's what this is for. This is for showing off the community, showing off what this ecosystem is doing. And you don't have to be novel or new. You just have to, have something to show and get people interested in it so that they can check you out too. And I think that's going to be very powerful to be able to see somebody walk through, I don't know, lending or something like that, and make it much more accessible because you see somebody looking out, walking through it for you, and you can then copy it or ask questions, that kind of thing. So
yeah, we talked about that before. I mean, a lot of the times in this space, we're kind of left to fend for ourselves as far as how to do certain things. I can remember when I first started messing around with DeFi back in, I don't know, maybe late 2020 or something like that, creating a liquidity pool token and then being like, oh man, I think I made all this money from both of these, this liquidity pool token, and I knew nothing about impermanent loss. And then I found out very quickly for myself about impermanent loss. But to have this stuff kind of walk, educational wise, like in a test environment, just walkthroughs, like to reference back to make sure that you're doing things correctly. Like this stuff didn't exist a couple of years ago. I still don't think that a lot of this stuff really exists now in this space. Like, and we're going to have Brady on here from Bonzo in just about an hour or so. And we've got Michael Cantor for TarBot and Hashnals too. So, I mean, the goal here is like not just to highlight and, for lack of a better phrasing, like shill what you're building. It's certainly going to occur. But to also like empower community members by educating them on how to use the technology, right?
Yeah. Because if you don't know it exists, then you can't check it out, right? So big proponent of that. You're muted.
Myself again. May and Tyler, thank you guys so much. Looking forward to, again, the AMA on the 29th. I do know out of all the projects so far, because we're not really into, like I said, that we're going to be doing this over time. We're not into like the getting the backpack holders to vote and stuff like that quite yet. But so we're kind of manually building out some of these showcases in advance. I know we have Batty Hattie coming on. Batty Hattie is a super OG in the Hedera community for like a good half hour there. So that'll be cool. And then building out everybody else. So looking forward to the space on the 29th. Reach out to HashPack for collaboration as well. I'm going to bring up Cantor for TarBot and Hashnals here. We've got Heisen AI about 30 minutes from now. We've got Bonzo at 2 p.m. And thank you guys, May and Tyler, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do you guys want to hang out up here, or do you want me to hop you down? It doesn't matter. It's up to you guys.
You can hop me down.
Okay. All right. What is up, Cantor?
Hey, Ryan, aka King Solomon. Thank you for having me up. I had to take a deep breath before I hit join because I noticed there was like 1,000 people watching this stream. That's kind of crazy. It's a big accomplishment. I have like 100 things I'm going to demo for this 30 minutes long. I honestly don't know if it's enough time, but we're going to try. We're going to focus on the cool stuff.
Yeah, well, load your screen up and let's get going. As Cantor loads his screen up, if you guys aren't aware, this guy has been building out massive amounts of utility in the Hedera ecosystem. I'm pretty sure Cantor had the first NFT analytics platform, like period, in Hedera that was like kind of meaningful through TarBot. Obviously, the Woke Femmes tie-in as well. And now, we've got Hashnals. So let me get my screens out of here, and we're just going to let you kind of walk us through some of the stuff, Michael. Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. Just confirming, can you see my screen okay?
Yep, I can.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about some fun stuff today. Mainly the two big topics for me are Hashnals and the DeFi analytics that we launched at TarBot. But before I do that, let me just introduce myself a little bit for the folks who don't know me. I am the founder and CEO of TarBot, and I'm also the co-creator of the Hashnal standard on Hedera. I've been doing a whole bunch of stuff in tech for almost like 15 years now. I started coding when I was 16, then I did freelancing contract work. did a lot of WordPress stuff, worked at fintechs, nonprofits, etc. But at the back of my head, I always had an itch to pursue startups and build some of my own stuff. When I was 16, I launched my first business, which actually was a media company, kind of similar to what Ryan is doing today, where we helped artists basically share out their work. I had a group of kids that I knew in high school handing out tickets and things like that to get artists sold out. That was my first business. And then I helped them with websites and things like that. And then my career just went crazy from that point on. But I always had that itch, to come back and do my own business. In 2016, I started exploring crypto as an investor. And during that period, if you were there, I think you probably would have felt too that, gosh, this space is just so crazy. Like, you look left and right and somebody's getting rugged or getting robbed or losing their money. The numbers all over the place. People are tweeting crazy stuff that just doesn't make sense, that the math didn't math up in a lot of cases. And that always bugged me. But I was working a full-time job at a fintech, so I couldn't really address it. And then in 2022, I was like, screw it. This has been bugging me for so long. Maybe I'll take a stab at it. And that came, the birth of NFTR, which eventually we did a rebrand to TarBot, where the bread and butter of what we want to do is support, traders, investors, enterprises, and businesses on the analytics side, helping you get the data and in the format that you need it in the moment that you need it, so that you can make those decisions. So when somebody launches a meme coin and then 30 minutes later they decide to rug, you actually have an insight on that and an upper hand, so that you don't get a rug too at that same time. So that's kind of the dream, the vision, and kind of where we're going with TarBot. But today I want to talk to you guys about Hashinals and our analytics platform. So just to rewind a little bit, I'm sure everyone is familiar with ordinals on Bitcoin, doginals, and bells, and things like that. They're all kind of flavors of the same thing, which work to put your NFT metadata or even files in general on chain. Today, when you actually create your NFTs, you have two options where you can either store your NFT metadata off-chain in a place like IPFS or Arweave, which is a perfectly fine solution, or now you can store your data on-chain through a protocol like Hashinals. And the way that Hashinals works is we basically take a big file, let's say like a 1 megabyte PNG, and we break it up into all of these little pieces, and then we put it onto the Hedera consensus service. And then when somebody's viewing it, we stitch it all back together and you can actually access it. That's probably the end of all the nerd speak that I'm going to give during this session. So instead, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to show you this whole process of putting an NFT on chain through the Hashinals standard. So right now I'm on tier.bot/inscribe, and that's where you can go and actually inscribe your content on chain. Inscribe is just, it's a dumb word that somebody came up with for putting stuff on chain. I know it sounds super duper nerdy, but it's the word that we use for this stuff. So that's what it is. Basically what you're doing is you're uploading your file. So I have this snake dash PNG. It's a 30 kilobyte image, and I'm dropping it in. And this process should kind of feel like you're using Dropbox. It should be super, super duper easy. Drop in your file. It's telling you that you're going to pay an estimated 6 HBAR, which is a very, very little for those counting. That's like 30 or 40 cents or something, but who's doing the math? Down here, I'm going to put in the metadata, snake dash. I'm the creator over here, a game on the hash graph. That's my description. That's the creator that comes in the metadata, and that's the name. And then down here, if I want, I can also put in attributes. So let's say I'll put the version of the game. I could put version 1 or 2 or something like that. Just circling back up to the top, you have the option of inscribing either a dynamic or immutable Hashinal. Because I'm inscribing a game, I am going to pick dynamic Hashinal, which gives me that option to go and change the metadata over time at any point that I want. And I get to select how quickly that content should change when it's viewable in wallets like HashPack, who was just on. a little bit ago, or dApps like Centex, which is the main marketplace on Hedera. So you can pick a time. We generally recommend like a day when you do this, just because for most use cases, it's not worth it for it to change more often than that can run into some issues. Then we've got our attributes, and down here we can add additional files. So for example, if I want to go and inscribe a secondary file, I click that button over here, or I can just search for previous files that have already been inscribed. So I'm going to pick this HTML file, which is actually how the game will get loaded. And I'm going to name the file over here, so snake game HTML file, which will show up in HashPack as your secondary file name. And then I'll just put the same thing in the description. I'll hit update metadata, and then I'll hit begin inscription process. When I hit that button, what's actually going to happen is it's going to open up a transaction in my HashPack to approve the inscription process. So that'll debit my account for that like 4 HBAR that we got quoted earlier, and it'll start inscribing. In a minute or so, this window will update and you'll actually be able to see. It might be a little bit shaky since we're doing a live demo, but here we go. We can see that the file is currently in queue. You can tell it's already coming out with the estimate. It's got the name and the hash coming up over here. And you'll see that this bar is starting to move. It figured out that this image has 39 messages that it has to break up into and then inscribe on the network. So as you can see, it's already done. It now just needs to inscribe the JSON file. It's super duper fast. If you were doing this on ordinals, you might be doing it for a while. But luckily on Hashinals, because of things like the Hedera consensus service, it is super duper fast to inscribe, because we can literally put messages on the Hedera consensus service at 10,000 transactions per second if we're smart how we approach those throttles.
What was Michael, what was the stat for, what was it, 3.1 gigabytes of data on Bitcoin was like it was like millions of it was like millions of dollars compared to Hedera being like, I think like a couple grand at the most, which is pretty wild. So yeah, I mean that in and of itself is a crazy statistic, where it's like, you know, maybe just real quick here, like how do you see inscriptions evolving over time with like the kind of the cross-chain aspects in a way that kind of makes sense, where, you know, maybe you have builders on Bitcoin that are leveraging ordinals that want to do certain things and still build on Bitcoin, but they want to leverage maybe Hedera and HCS for certain things in that process?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think the big part of it for me is how you're dealing with the mempool on Bitcoin and how fast you're able to trade. I think that's the biggest disadvantage with Bitcoin, is how long it takes those transactions to process. I could see in the future where there's such a thing as basically like a wrapped hashinal or a wrapped ordinal. So you've got a user on ordinals who basically takes their ordinal, puts it in some kind of like a vault, like a bridge or vault or some kind of thing like that. And then the asset gets reinscribed as a hashinal on Hedera. So at this point, you can't touch your ordinal in Bitcoin anymore, but you do have a hashinal. And the main benefit would be that, unlike, you know, the 30-minute, 60-minute, whatever transaction time on Bitcoin that is to trade and sell that NFT, you have that instant liquidity that you can get almost because of how fast transactions finalize on Hedera. So that would kind of be the main benefit for me of bridging out those assets to other networks, because you still have that benefit. Okay, well, you moved it to Hedera, it's on chain through the Hedera consensus service, but more importantly, you're able to quickly trade that asset a lot faster than you would be able to on Bitcoin. The other way that I could see it being used, but I don't know if this will really happen, is ordinals users actually basically using the Hedera consensus service kind of like as a pointer. It would basically be the same thing as using IPFS or RWeave at that point, though. So it would be up to the preference of the creator if they would actually want to go and do something like that.
Yep. Sorry to interrupt. Go for it.
No, it was a great question. Feel free to interrupt anytime. Where were we? Yes, so I inscribed my national. It took like 30 seconds. And this all happened in real time. You guys all saw this. There was a high potential that this thing might break because you know how live demos go, but it worked fine. At this point, what I can do is I can actually go and create a token. I can set which keys I want. We don't store anyone's keys or anything like that. That's a big thing of ours, is we don't want anything to do with your private keys. So when you go and make this transaction to create your token, just please download your keys. It'll automatically have a little thing come up where you can download them, or you can hit this button after you're done. So you go and download your keys. And then once you do that, it'll automatically populate your supply key and you can mint this NFT and turn it into an actual Hashanal. So the way that that works is you just have to inscribe your file once, and then you can mint it as many times as you want with that same file. And each one of those mints will actually count as a unique Hashanal. Right now, we've got over like 127,000 inscribed Hashanals on Hedera. The biggest collection that's been inscribed was actually our collection, the Defiance, which was 3.1 gigabytes of data. It took us 3 days to inscribe all of that data on the Hedera consensus service, and this was back in March. And the total amount that we spent was like under 1,000 or something like that to put that in network. If we did the same thing on Bitcoin, like you were saying, the last time I checked, each gigabyte on Bitcoin costs a little over $1 million to do. It might be different based on the current SAT ratio. So it would have cost us $3 million or more to go and inscribe that on ordinals for our collection. Whereas we're literally paying like $1,000 to do that on Hedera. So there's a humongous cost factor here to going and putting your assets on the Hedera consensus service versus Bitcoin's blockchain.
Wow. Yeah, and I know that the process was pretty seamless for us too. I know that we inscribed the article that we did of the interview with Lehman Mance, Eric Piscini from Consensus. We inscribed the actual article as HTML, I believe. We inscribed the image, and we inscribed the, a short form video too from it too, which was really cool. And it actually, like, after you walked us through that process, like, sparked all sorts of ideas for me to be like, this would be really cool to, like, not on, an on Hashgraph kind of news aspects would be pretty sweet over time. So yeah, I mean, the process for us was super seamless. It was really simple. It wasn't overly expensive for us at all. And I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. And I certainly want to explore this stuff in the future too. But
yeah, I actually have that pulled up here. That was one of the things I wanted to show today. I thought that was the coolest thing ever that we did. I know maybe not everyone kind of appreciated, but how awesome it was that you put, I don't know, so the actual Hashanal that you inscribed was 112,568 messages on the Hedera consensus service. So let me just say that again. It was 112,568 messages for this video file. And it's a really short clip, but it's really high quality. You probably can't hear the audio.
No, can't hear the audio.
But yeah, but I implore anyone to go and check this out. It's a free mint that's available on HashPack right now. So you can just pop open your HashPack, go to the NFT section, and then you look for Every Part of the Planet with Dr. Lehman Beard, and you can go and mint this Hashanal and have it in your wallet, and it'll play immediately. The fact that it's able to combine those 100,000 messages together and play it for you in real time, that's a technological marvel, which I'm really proud of, actually. We had to update our CDN, which is kind of the gateway for Hashanals, to support something that big. It actually broke it the first time that I tried to run it. I don't know if I told you that.
No, you didn't tell me that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, I think what happened, I was thinking, I told him that this would work perfectly, and now it's not working. So I went and fixed it, and then it was working at that point. And now we're able to support these humongous video files, like, no problem, which is really cool. The actual pieces get chunked as you view it, which is great for streaming and buffering. So somebody could go and create like a decentralized YouTube by storing their files as Hashanals, which is super cool. And yeah, as you were saying too, the secondary files here, there's an image, the cover image from Consensus 2024 with Mance and Eric up there, Lehman, that came out really cool. It's a cool graphic. And we had this cool idea, like, hey, why don't we just inscribe the actual article too? That's cool. So here you can see the HTML article that's on the Genfinity website inscribed as a hash null as well. So all of that in that single file is a really cool thing to have in your wallet, and you can get it for free on HashPack. I think it's awesome. The other cool thing that I want to show you guys today is so the thing that we were just inscribing as a live demo was actually a game, and I made this game in 3 hours. I want to preface this by saying I am not an indie developer, guys. That's not my area of expertise. I did Swift development like when I was in my 20s, just for fun, just to make games on the side for fun, but I'm not an indie developer. I'm the furthest thing from it. I do more like SaaS, fintechy stuff, and big data. That's more of my jam. But I did this in 3 hours because I was frustrated at that time, and I was getting like I should have been working on something else. But yeah, this was inspired by a tweet that Tyler from HashPack actually made, saying that we should put Slither as an NFT, and I was like, you know what? Let me just go and do that. So lo and behold, let's see if you can actually watch me playing this game. This is Slither, and you can see on the screen there are these little ants that you have to eat as food. And as you go and eat your food, then your snake will grow and your score will go up in time. So the cool thing about this game is the entirety of the game is stored on chain as a hash null. So all of the CSS, all of the JavaScript, the entire HTML file, that's all on the Hedera consensus service. What does that mean for indie game developers? Well, I think it's a massive distribution engine, because you can do a whole lot of cool stuff with this. Number one, this link over here is the link to our TarBot Inscription CDN gateway, and you can share it and embed it anywhere you want, anywhere in the world. Just send it to somebody, and they can play your game instantly. You're not paying for a service or anything like that. You just inscribe your file once, and now you can share your game with anyone. And it only costs like 4 HBAR to put this game up. So now you've got your game, you can share it. What's the next thing that you can do? Well, you're an indie game developer and you want to grow your audience, right? So make the game competitive, create a leaderboard, and then say, okay, whoever gets the highest score on the leaderboard, you'll get some kind of monetary award. Now you've got this game, you've got people engaging with the game because they want to get a monetary prize, but most importantly, you're increasing your brand and your notoriety for what you're building. So you can release a bunch of these games and get known in the industry, and you can give them out for free, or you can mint them, or whatever you want. We have a thing here for the folks in the room where you can actually mint this for like 0.05 HBAR. It's not going to break the bank, but you'll get it in your wallet, and then you can play the game you have in your wallet. It's just a cool thing to have. If you want, you can share a screenshot, or you can submit a score from the actual game. So we have this leaderboard here. We just ran a competition where this account over here, they got the top score, 2,140, which is actually really hard to get in Snake Dash. I purposely made it quite challenging. So they won 500 HBAR, and we'll probably be doing more tournaments like that.
Oh, wow,
just as like a fun way. Yeah.
No, that's super cool. It's super engaging. Like, because at the end of the day, most people are just like, I don't want to say zoning out, but most people, like, for lack of better phrasing, zoning out and just doing something that they can kind of get hooked on. And like games are obviously, how many times do we sit on our phones and just kind of play games that are kind of like almost like semi-addictive, but really, really simple. Something that gets you using the technology, but that's really simple. And you don't even necessarily have to care about using the technology because you just like playing the game. I think it's really cool, dude. Awesome.
That's the narrative that I want to paint. I think for a large degree, like Web3 gaming has been backwards. We're pouring millions and millions and millions of dollars into high fidelity games that nobody's actually going to enjoy playing, because it's not about the fidelity of the game. It's not about the graphics. It's not about the frames per second. the game has to be fun, right? That's the thing. You play Candy Crush not because the graphics are amazing. You play it because you're addicted and it's fun to play. That's why your grandma's in the subway and she's playing Candy Crush, and she's not going here and playing the new Final Fantasy game or the new Horizon Dawn. Like, yeah, those games are cool, but you don't need a $10 million to go and create a game and put it on the blockchain. This game took me 3 hours to make, and I'm not an indie game developer, so I'm sure that somebody out there could make something way cooler, inscribe it as a hashional, and distribute it immediately, and start building their audience today instead of trying to raise around through VCs and going the startup route. There's a better path, I think, out there. And I did a panel recently where I spoke, and I said it was a gaming panel, and I probably pissed a lot of people off by saying this. And I said the first, $1 billion Web3 game, it's not going to be one of these Unity, Unreal Engine games. I don't think that. I think it's going to be like a Candy Crush, or it's going to be like a Flappy Bird. It's going to be something stupid, simple, that your grandma is going to play on the train going to work. That's it.
Think about
that's
it.
what I think will take off.
Think about it this way too, which is really cool, where like this gives you an immediate, really cheap way to figure out who's engaging, who's engaged and who isn't engaged. So like when I look at that leaderboard, if you put out a game and that you've got hundreds of users that are actually engaging with the game that you've built, then it kind of gives you an in route to be like, okay, I know what kind of works there. Imagine then, if you want to use that audience of people that is super engaging, tie them into some sort of a, I don't want to say like launch or leverage them for a launch to buy X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, it gives you an idea of, here's some addresses that I know are engaging with the community, that are using the technology, and then what are some other cool things you can kind of do on top of that. So like it gives you a direct inroad to actual people that are participating, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. You have their account ID. You can send them a memo. Maybe one day we'll have a peer-to-peer messaging system. And it's all possible in Hedera because the fees are so cheap. You can't imagine sending thousands of messages on an EVM network most of the time. The Hedera, it's fixed, cheap. Just make a public topic ID and have people subscribe to a chat room, and boom, you're done. Now you can communicate to your audience, even if they're not in your Discord community or your Twitter or whatever. So that's Snake Dash. If you want to go and play this game, go to tier.bot/snake-leaderboard. And you can go in, click that play again button, and take you straight to the game, or you can just find it on my profile. I made a bunch of tweets on that. So that's x.com/camturcoats. The other couple other things I want to touch on real quick. We got 5 minutes, so I'll try to be fast here. It's a ton of stuff. Number one is our Defiance NFT collection, which gives you access to our DeFi analytics that is currently operating in beta. As you mentioned, Ryan, before we were the first platform on Hedera to launch an NFT analytics platform. Now we've got our DeFi analytics platform. Our Defiance NFT collection is actually inscribed entirely on the Hedera consensus service. They're all sub 1,000 inscription numbers, which you can currently verify on hashionals.com. The cool thing about these is we could have just made them like a pass, or could have done pixel, or could have done something really simple. But Shells, our artist, she actually spent about 8 months drawing this collection in Procreate. Every single trait is hand drawn. It took a huge, massive amount of art, massive amount of time to put this collection together. And you can see it on tier.bot/Hedera/Defiance. And the other thing is they're actually on a 4,000 by 4,000 canvas, these pieces. So there are files here that are almost 15 megabytes big. These are massive files as far as PFPs go. And they look great printed on like a t-shirt or a canvas as well, just because they're so freaking big. And that was part of the challenge with scaling Hashionals. Is we had an early prototype in February. And if we went live with that prototype for Hashionals in February, it probably wouldn't have scaled as well if we had just sent it. So we waited until March to launch, after we did a lot of research on different options, to make this thing run at scale. And it still took us 3 days to inscribe the 3.1 gigabytes of this collection onto the hash graph. We actually ran into errors from like the gRPC proxies because we were hitting it with so many transactions to try and inscribe all these messages. So you can find that collection on tier.bot/defines. We also, this is a platform built by TurtleMoon, aka Patches, which is hashnulls.com. And on hashnulls.com, you can find the inscription numbers for any hashnulls that have been inscribed on Hedera. These are the HGraph Punk aliens. They're some of the first inscriptions that were done, along with the Defiance in that sub 1,000 range. So you can check those out on hashnulls.com. And then I know we've got just 3 minutes here, so I'll try to rush through this real quick. We're currently operating our DeFi analytics beta for our analytics, and you get access to these analytics by owning a Defiance. Our big thing at TarBot is all the NFTs that we put out, they should have some kind of utility for it. We're really big on utility. So you'll get access to the NFT analytics, the DeFi analytics, and Discord bots, and a whole bunch of stuff related to DeFi. If you own 3 of those Defiance, you can actually shape our roadmap and help us kind of decide what we should focus on. This is just a preview. I won't be able to really run through the features in 3 minutes, but just some highlights. You got your liquidity change over time, volume over time, daily volume, big pie chart of all the tokens on Hedera. You can see Karate down here as 43%. The holders in the network, 358,000. Gosh, that's crazy, right? You've got a whale tracker. You can see what whales are doing. You can see the pools, stack rank them against their APY. And we've actually got some decent APY on some of these pools, by the way, for the folks who aren't from Hedera. We have a accounts chart over here, which gives you insight into the accounts that are holding the most amount of HBAR by account ID, which is super duper cool. We've got live transactions where you can see transactions as they're happening in real time. Wrapped HBAR 4 minutes ago, 2 FM. You see they're selling these assets here. You've got trends, and the list just goes on and on. We're really trying to build a really encompassing DeFi analytics platform along with Discord bots. And in the future, we want to continue to explore AI as a way of reducing that feedback loop for you, so you can get that data even faster, you know, in the moments that you need it, with a little bit what I was talking about when I first came on. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I've got just maybe a minute or 2 left here. Ryan, if you have any questions or things you want to jam on before I jump off here.
No, I really just appreciate your time today, Cantor, and it's always a pleasure to talk. Again, guys, go check out TierBot. You can go to tier.bot and kind of do all the searching that you would want to through there. And similar thing with Hashnulls, go to hashnulls.com. And kudos on the game, man. I think you've got me. I'll probably go on there and do some, we used to call it, I forget, it was like Snake or whatever it was, but I'll definitely get into the weeds and start playing that. I think it's awesome to watch all the really cool aspects of tooling and just utility from an analytics standpoint that you guys are building for the community out there, because it really does transcend not just like, I mean, if you look at like where analytics are going to be utilized in the future, it's not just, you know, for us degens that may be in the NFT/DeFi space. You know, what you're kind of building are really like analytic primitives that like a lot of these enterprises and stuff like that will probably be using down the line. So thank you so much, Cantor, for coming on. Let's do this again in the near future. I'm going to give this a couple of seconds here, and we will get Watusi up here from Heisen AI. So thank you so much, Cantor. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the opportunity, and for everyone in the audience, have a great day. Thank you so much for having me. Awesome.
I'm going to bring up Watusi. You are on the stage. How's it going?
Hey, I'm great. I'm doing super well. I think my team is completely unprepared. I'm not wearing a shirt. And where's Jake and Lee at?
Well, we had May was up here before. We had
I think they think
up here. I think you've just got me now for the next 30 minutes.
All right. Yeah, you know, I think they think there's a different link. Not a different link. get in here now. All right, they'll be here in a second.
All right. Cool.
Hey,
Well,
yeah, I'm the designer, front end, branding artist, marketer, etc., swag expert of Heisen AI. We're building the coolest AI project on Hedera and Web3 in general, most likely. We're an aggregator of 3 services, and we're going to be enabling users to use the best of the web's coolest web services, AI services, with one easy token. And here's Lee, thank God.
what's up, Lee? How's it going?
Hey man, it's good to be here. Yeah, I didn't realise it was the same link, but Jake will be in a sec too.
We'll give it a second. I think I've got Jake coming in too.
Yeah, I'm
Let me
gonna
check the group layout here.
I'm gonna wear some clothes.
We're doing this in real time, guys. We're changing the world in real time. We're shotgunning stuff. No, but Watuzi, you're good, dude. And thank you, Lee, for joining, and thank you, Jake, for joining as well. Yeah, I mean, Jake or Lee, maybe you give it just a quick intro of yourself, and then we'll go to Jake, and then we'll share a screen here. And before we hopped in here, Watuzi, you were showing us the back room aspect. So I want to share a screen. Hopefully we can share that again. But Lee, give us a little bit of an intro of yourself. Tell us what you're doing with Heisen.
Yeah, hey, yeah, it's great to be here. So my main role at Heisen is the back end development. So all the bots you see, things like the HiBot, Babel, the chatbots, etc., all the utilities we build, pretty much, a lot of those are created by me, and that's basically all that I do within Heisen. I do get a bit involved in the other aspects, but that's my main role. That's what I do. And yeah, I've all my skills have been gained from working with Heisen before I rebrand as well. So I've slowly gained these skills over time as we've been a project for over 2 years, and now we're able to build some really amazing things. And that capability is just getting further and further up, and it's really amazing, yeah. And
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, guys. So they're on Genfinity.io, the Twitter. If you guys can share the live stream we've got going on right now, that would help. And Jake, give us a little intro of yourself, man.
Sure. So I'm Jake. I'm the lead marketer and co-founder at Heisen. A little bit about myself. I've worked for a global distributor in clothing that do blank t-shirts, and I've done a bit of marketing for them. I've moved on to that now to do this full time with the team. So yeah, at Heisen, my role is really just marketing and networking and building the community and getting the tools out there as well into other businesses in Web3 and Web2 as well. I am going to share my screen and just take you through some of the tools that we've got going and we've been building, that Lee's been building. So I'm going to cover a little bit on HiBot, some on Babel as well, which is the seamless auto translation bot on Discord. And then we'll talk a little bit about account ID tokenization as well on Hedera and the STY NFT engine as well, which is a gaming API that we're currently building.
Yeah, go for it, man. We got 25 minutes, so the floor is all you guys. So as soon as you click it, I'll add you guys to the stage here. Let me get on a good view. Let me remove the background. And yeah, if you want this view or if you want this view, it's up to you guys. I mean, I might switch back and forth, but feel free to take it away, Jake.
Yeah, so sure. So HiBot is basically the most comprehensive AI aggregator on Discord at the moment. So the way we use HiBot is we basically aggregate all different AI models and functionalities into one place. So any user can come on, they can choose from over 150 large language models. They can choose from several different video models, image generation, text-to-speech, image editing models as well, and even music creation, generating audio, generating QR codes, and all these different AI tools into one place. So the goal with this is we do want to have it on free front ends, because we know not everyone loves using Discord or Telegram and things like that. But the goal is literally to have the most comprehensive AI bot out there. So, we want to create a network of, creators, content creators, musicians, artists, anyone, who likes using AI and these tools to come into our place and have fun with the most comprehensive tool. And I'll let Lee talk a little bit more about how that works if you want to talk about more of the tech side, Lee.
You're muted, Lee.
Okay, yeah, that was a bit funny. So yeah, HiBot, that's our flagship product. So it's an AI API aggregator. So it brings all these different service providers, including some aggregators themselves, and it aggregates them further. So it brings in all these different models of different modalities. So for example, just on the tech side, you can switch HiBot between about 170 different models right now, text models. So then you can choose all the settings as well. So it's hyper customizable. You can pretty much create your own AI bot exactly how you want it to be, exactly how developers have access to. You have all the settings, you have all the different models, and you can just customize it however you want. And then you have all these different, obviously these advanced features as well. Like there's some really cool ones like search and replace. So you can give an image to it. You can ask something like the hair of the image, and then you can ask what you want to turn into. That'd be like a mohawk. I could give myself a mohawk with it very easily. Just all these different things within one bot. And then for each of these different things, it has different models as well. So then you have all these options, just as many options as we can possibly give. And that's pretty much what the goal of HiBot is. And we also, this is just opening into its closed beta now. We have the Heisen API. So that's our API aggregator gateway, where you can use all these different models, different modalities, a bunch of each, through an API to build your own bots from. So you can build that into your website, into your own chatbots. You can have all the different image generations, etc., available in your own applications through that, as well as our own products. So you can build the whole of HiBot as your own application from our API, which is really cool. And we'll have a mode that can help you do so. And yeah, that's mostly what HiBot is. It's one place to access every AI possible, basically.
Yeah, I'm curious from your guys' stance, and maybe this is a question for you, Lee, or maybe it's Jake, but obviously the adaptation of like ChatGPT last year, and we're seeing, I did an interview maybe 3 months ago where I think 6,000 AI startups in 2024. Like how involved in people's because we probably use AI on most platforms that we're already using right now, but like from the individual level, how we interact with AI, how do you think that stuff ties in over the next 5-10 years? I mean, do you think it's basically going to be a part of like everybody's lives, like using AI to do X, Y, and Z on a daily basis, like at the individual level? Are people going to start like creating prompts from the ways that they act to just to make their lives more? Well, I don't know what the word is, but more of that.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to see, especially in the subject of AI agents, where the AIs are actually acting autonomously, seeing what's going on and making decisions that impact the real world through that. Agents are going to be the next big advancement. We're going to see people actually be able to use them for different autonomous tasks a lot more. Right now, they're very niche. They're kind of like a very specialist tool. You use them for one generation, it does one thing. Quite smart, a lot of them, but they are really autonomous. That's what we're going to see it start to evolve into, and we're going to see AIs doing a lot of jobs for people that they are currently. And yeah, the way Heisen ties in and the way we're going to be punitive against that is that because we're an aggregator as our main flagship, whenever a new model comes out that beats the old models, we have that available very quickly. For example, Claude 3 Sonnet 3.5 came out, we had that the next day. So you have the cutting edge AI models always available to you through this bot. You don't have to go and get another subscription elsewhere. You can just use these models as you please. You can switch between them and just do whatever you want with them. And it will always stay at the very cutting edge of whatever is available to build with. So especially with our API, if another API is something that we don't have, we will integrate that into our aggregator. So we always stay very future-proof, no matter what happens in terms of AI advancements mostly. And yeah, I see it going really crazy once agents get very good. It should be quite soon.
Awesome. Jake, I know you've got a new screen popped up here, so I'll let you take the reins.
Yeah, I was just taking you through the website that Susie made at the start, so you can see, our core 4 use cases at the moment. I think it's important that we talk about how HBAR is going to leverage the consensus service as well, because that's an important thing on Hedera. So, every time when we have that credit system live, the HCS credit system, when people come in and they, play around with their credits and use their high to play around with these different AI tools, we want a immutable backup log on HCS. So every time someone comes in and uses that and makes a prompt, that's a transaction on the network. So for example, when we use the API and we get out there and there's devs building apps on top of the Heisen API, or, we have it on free front ends and you can, host TarBot into any Discord server. We've got 100 people prompting at once, that's 100 transactions on the network. And, as you expand out and have that, that status of the most comprehensive on Discord, I think it's a win in terms of, and I believe you can add, anything to that in terms of how we're going to use that, and maybe talk a bit about SQL as well.
Yeah, for sure. Whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, Jake mentioned HCSQL. That's something that we haven't touched on much, but that's coming quite soon. That is based on the technology we're using in HBAR in order to log all the credit usage onto HCS. So you'll basically have a immutable backup that also allows people to verify how much is actually being spent on HBAR, so then we can have our profits actually be verified on chain. So not only does it make it resistant to things like ransomware attacks, that let's say your server gets compromised, someone encrypts your data, you've got a backup onto HCS. You can sync back up with the HCS data and restore your whole database from Hedera. So it's completely resistant to all sorts of attacks, etc., as well as allowing you to choose which parts aren't encrypted, which can then be used to publicly verify different things that are happening, events, etc., how much is being paid, usage numbers, all these different things. So there's a bunch of benefits to having backups onto HCS or different databases. It's quite hard to use it directly as a database because of latency, etc. You have to be very quick with them. But if you have a separate server which you're sending out API requests to then make the HCS transactions, you can just have a simple log being taken onto HCS, which then can have a slow sync process to restore that database if needed. So that would be very cool once that's ready. And yeah, that would be open source, available to anyone.
So is that similar to your audio is a little bit low, Lee, so I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. But I know when you say HCSQL, I remember back in the day whenever Patches, I think it might have been through Turtleman, had the first kind of implementation of GraphQL API, which is like it was just instead of my understanding of it, because I'm certainly not a developer, was basically like instead of having to query the network like 150 times, it basically pulled that and to take a couple of hours, it pulled it down into like a minute or 2 minutes. Is that something similar, but just through Hedera consensus service directly?
It's in a similar ballpark, but it's not doing the same thing. So what that's allowing is they're a mirror node provider. So they provide data to people who need the data of what's on Hedera. And usually you have to use a normal mirror node through the REST API, which is quite inefficient. So they're offering a more efficient way to actually query the data, as you said. Well, what I'm creating with HCSQL is a way to make live backups of your data. So you can make a backup onto HCS, which can be restored back into your database if needed, while they're making an easy way to access data. So there's actually a very high chance that it can be a very synergistic technology, as mine can create backups, and then their mirror node could make it very easy to actually retrieve that data back from the network. So they're in a similar ballpark, but they do different aspects that can be very synergistic, potentially.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just to get cut in, I think I'd like to move on to Babel. So I'm just going to share the Discord again. So Babel is basically our AI translation bot on Discord. So it basically allows a seamless international community very easily. So I think the problem now you see with crypto and some servers and some communities, you go in and a lot of them don't have a multilingual community. Like it's hard for developers, it's hard for people to go in and speak to someone. For example, if I go in and speak to someone Spanish, for example, you see like Kabila, and they have a Spanish community, and they have a British speaking community as well, and it kind of like splits that apart. So we decided to create something called Babel, which is basically an AI translation bot that creates character embeds in Discord. And I'll just show a little demo of this now. I'll just share the screen. Just one moment.
Nice play on the name, by the way.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
Tower of Babel, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Lee, do you want to just explain like the more technology side of Babel? But essentially it creates character embeds in the server. So if I go in, for example, the Spanish section, and I just type in "Hola, me llamo Jake," Babel will then respond to that, and then it'll put straight in the main server, and then "Hello, my name is Jake" will come into the main lounge on the server. But you can go into each section here, like German, "Hello, ich heiße Jake," and you can go into Swedish, all these different languages, and it'll create that embed in there. So the way we're working with this is we're going to have a subscription-based application, basically, on here. So let me just, excuse me. So there's a guide here. So you'd go onto our Discord server, you'd go on the Heisen website, you'd add Babel to your server, and then you can get started, set up a subscription, transfer HBARs to some accounts, include the memo in the transaction, and then you'll basically have a functional multilingual bot in your Discord server. And I think
that's pretty cool, because like, I mean, when we think about like silos that kind of naturally occur, normally we default to like, different projects, and I have to have 40 different Discords open for 40 different projects. But to take it even a step further, all the silos that even occur in like internally within project Discords because of language barriers, right? And you essentially are eliminating language barriers where, at least from the written standpoint. And then I'm curious, like over time, it'll be really cool to watch something like this, even from like the audio standpoint. But sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to add some stuff on that, Lee, before we get into more like the gaming API side as well, and we're Susie talk about some game development we've been doing as well. But yeah, I just think Babel it's such a unique and easy thing. It just came about. We thought it was a great idea, and people have really. I've seen people, come in our server from different language backgrounds and barriers, and we've had a great conversation. And I think that's just the beauty of it. In terms of the subscription, Lee, do you want to talk maybe a bit more about how that's going to work? And
yeah, so just to touch on what Babel is again, if anyone isn't understanding, whenever you set it up in your server, you will choose which languages you want to support. You have a list of about 25 languages. And then once you choose them, it will create a category called multilingual. It will make a channel for each language. And then whenever you send a message into either your main channel, which will be set to your native language, or into any of the language channels, it will create about 25, if you have all the languages enabled, AI generations for each language. And this will happen in under a second. So you've got 25 AI generations instantly happening. It creates character embeds, so you can still see who you're talking to. You can see their profile picture, their name, etc. And you only see one message in the actual channel you're using for your language, so there's no spam from it. And yeah, you can talk between all these different languages at once. So you can have a conversation where I'm speaking English, someone else is speaking Spanish, someone else is speaking Japanese, someone else is speaking Russian. Everyone's in their own channel, and everyone's able to speak through the bot without having to manually translate anything. So translations, of course, have been available for a very long time, but it's removing the friction part. You don't want to sit in a server copy-pasting each message, put it into Google Translate, getting the message, doing it the other way back around. It's a lot of time to read any kind of content from them, and this just streamlines the whole process. So you have every message already translated in one place where you can just read through them all. And yeah, it really just connects communities together, and that's the goal of it.
Yep. No, it's pretty cool, guys. We've got 10 minutes left, so you guys got whatever you guys want to kind of shotgun through. And I don't know. Are we gonna see the back rooms, Watusi, or are we gonna save that for the next time?
Well, okay, are the back rooms up, guys? Still, are they still available to see?
Oh yeah, I left it all.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's do this. Go pull up the back rooms, and I'll go ahead and say my last spiel while I talk.
I can do it within 5 minutes. I still want to cover the gaming API. I'm the contact details.
Yeah, just pop that up, and I'll tell you. So to kind of touch on what you said about earlier, your question about whether AI would be an integrated part of our lives, I think the answer is going to be absolutely undeniably yes. We're already seeing not only LLMs and these web-based tools for helping people do their work, but we're seeing personal devices, we're seeing biometric integrated devices, we're seeing ocular implants, we're seeing personal devices that can see the world around you, describe the world around you, and help you navigate it. And these things are just getting better, and they're just getting better faster. There's an exponential growth attached to this stuff, and if you don't see it, you definitely feel it. Every industry is going to be revolutionized. Every industry. What Heisen's doing is kind of placing itself, in my opinion, as kind of a magnifier in between this beam that's shooting from this crazy ray. It's magnifying this and accelerating. It's kind of an accelerant. And in my opinion, it's putting the power into people's hands in a way, and I like to think we're building an ethos and a zeitgeist that's promoting the idea that AI is here to enhance human potential, enhance human intelligence, enhance human creativity, and to not replace it, and to put that kind of thought feeling forward. And to the idea of bringing value to an ecosystem, we touched on a lot of different things, and Jake mentioned the game development. One of the exciting things that we're looking into also is game development, because gaming is one of the most, if not the most compelling retail use case for AI and technology in general, right? So we're working on a couple of projects. Like there's kind of like 2 kind of solid ideas floating right now that are designed to really showcase the capability of the technology. And I'm personally really excited about one that that we're using HiBot specifically to generate a large percentage of the environmental game assets and the character assets for the game, and it's coming out looking really amazing. So I'm really excited to show you guys that eventually. But what we're looking at right here is the back rooms. The back rooms, if you want to go ahead and click on a link, what we're looking at is Lee can come in and kind of help here, but this is an AI generated infinite wormhole of nightmare craziness that has AI generated CSS and JavaScript, and it's doing it pretty much. You type in a secret password on the website, and you go into a portal of an alternate reality, and AI pretty much does its best to freak you out and take you on a kind of choose your own adventure, horror themed trips through this strange world where, as you can see, every page is a novel experience that's generated on the fly. These are entire web pages that are just generated by the AI. And the deeper you go, the crazier it can get. You can get animations, 2D, 3D, models talking to each other. You can get timing things. Sometimes you get locked in a room for a while and it'll unlock it randomly at a time. Sometimes it'll give you a way out, but it'll be invisible and you have to look for it. It's just super gnarly. It's one of the coolest things that we made. That's particularly, this is kind of like a brainchild of Lee. So if he wants to explain what's going on here, this thing is
Just to cut in, I think, obviously, it's a bit of fun, just showcasing what kind of AI can do. But yeah, if Lee, you want to come and talk about the gaming API that we're creating with NFTs, it's a totally different story. So at the moment, we have a bot on our Discord called the STY NFT engine, the STY NFT engine. So basically, you can speak to any NFT just by the AI visually scanning it and scanning the metadata as well. So you can basically create a character prompt from scanning any NFT, whether you're pulling it from IPFS. Eventually, we will be using Hashals and things like that as well. And basically, you can make a whole entire NFT collection have a personality. And depending on what model you use, some of the outputs are different. But the potential with the STY NFT engine, which Lee will probably get into, is extraordinary. You could eventually populate games with non-playable characters that have AI powered knowledge base, basically. And if Lee, you want to get into that and explain a bit more about the STY NFT engine, because you put it good.
So we only have a few minutes, so I'm going to speed run through this and the account ID tokenization. So with the gaming API, what that is basically, it started with the STY engine. It'll start NFT support to actually create AI characters out of NFTs which you can speak to. You can do that on our Discord right now for any Hedera NFT. And the main actual vision of the gaming AI API is that you can easily create AI NPCs through an API that handles all the complex processes for you. So you can handle the game state and the function calls to actually perform actions into the game. So like if they want to say sell an item for a certain price, they'd output a JSON output that would correspond to an action in game, which you can make a trigger for inside your game or metaverse, etc. So it's basically a streamlined way to make AI NPCs in your game. They can also be based off the NFTs, as Jake said. And yeah, that's basically the whole core of all it is. And then the account ID tokenization, I'll go into very quickly since we don't have much time. It's basically taking Hedera accounts and allowing you to tokenize them into an NFT, which can then be traded as a normal NFT. You can trade, you go on Centex, and you can trade for a certain account. And usually with other networks, that wouldn't really have much value. But with Hedera, the accounts or add upwards. So the earlier accounts have very small amount of digits compared to the new ones, so they can be more valuable. Like let's say someone has a 4-digit account ID, that's very similar to like a domain, like a .HBAR domain, etc. Except it's the account itself. So it's like a vanity account which you can then trade. So we'll see how that goes. It's in a testnet right now. You can come and tokenize your testnet account and you can redeem it back for a new private key. So yeah, that's very cool. That's incentivized as well. And yeah, just to touch a little bit more on the gaming API. Gaming AIs in video games, AI controlled NPCs that are doing all these different actions inside of the game. It's going to be a massive, massive wave in gaming. We're going to see almost every game start to actually have these AI powered NPCs. We're going to see the world start to come to life, or almost like actual simulations. So we're positioning ourselves to be a technology provider for that, to make it a streamlined process for any of these game developers that actually want to do this, which is going to be a lot of developers very soon once this actually starts to gain a lot of steam. And yeah, I'll give it to everyone else since we have a minute left.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, Jake. One question real quick. I mean, I think about the gaming experience right now, and you talk NPCs. Like, I think we're going to get to the point with AI that every single, maybe there's a base layer to a game, but every single decision that you make within that game totally changes the way that the NPCs interact with and like everything going on within that game. I mean, that's probably where we're getting to. But go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, well, that makes it fun, when you don't know what's going to happen in a game, or it's a complicated game. I think that makes it fun. But yeah, just before we go off, so I know we've got a minute. We're a new startup. We're a team of 3. It's going to take us a while to get to where we want. We've built some cool stuff. It's probably about getting that out there now, and speaking to the right people and speaking to the right projects and seeing if we can, network with them as well. But yeah, I'll just say that, and we'll start off. We've got a very good dev in Lee, and we've got a very good front end developer in Matuzi, and our goal is really just to make the most fun place to play with AI tools. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say there. But yeah, thank you for having me on.
What, Tuesday, you got anything to close us out here before I bring Brady up?
Just thanks for having us. I feel like I always say I'm excited to see what's coming, but that's true. I'm just every step of the way, I'm just getting more excited, more just looking forward to how things are growing, and it's just been a really interesting experience so far. And yeah, man, let's just do it, man. Let's get it.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining us today and looking forward to you guys coming on again in the near future. Huge shout out to HashPack for helping us to put these together. And Jake, Lee, and Watusi, thank you guys so much. Looking forward to seeing all the cool stuff coming out of Heisen in the near future too. And yeah, awesome. Really appreciate the walkthrough. Really cool stuff with the back rooms and everything else. It's pretty awesome. So
yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
I'm going to bring Brady up here as you guys hop down. Thank you guys for joining. Let me get Brady on here.
Hey, man.
What's up?
How's
I'm
it
just
going?
changing the background here, or the banner here, for 1 second. So give me 1 second. How's it going, Brady? This is your third time on a video spaces, by the way. So I mean, you are quickly becoming the new audio spaces patches, because I had patches on for like the first year. I'm pretty sure I had patches on like 30 spaces, and like every week I was like, hey, patches, you want to come onto a space and talk about Hedera?
Well, I
So-
love it. Always free to come in and talk about Hedera and Bonzo and anything else you got going.
100%. So while I'm kind of populating this, Brady, for those that might not be aware that are watching, maybe just give us just a brief intro of yourself and tell us about Bonzo. And I'm happy to share a screen and go through everything that you guys are building. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Brady Gentile. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Bonzo Finance Labs. Bonzo Finance Labs was started in March of this year. And prior to starting that, I was working at Hedera and Swirlds Labs for about 5.5 years, doing product marketing and director of marketing role there. After that time, I had been really focused around the Web3 retail ecosystem and DeFi ecosystems on Hedera. And, obviously a strong believer in Hedera long-term, and thought that I could make a bigger impact by satisfying a gap that exists in the DeFi ecosystem on Hedera, which is lending and borrowing. So what Bonzo Finance Labs does is contributes to the development of the Bonzo Finance protocol, which is a Aave v2 based lending and borrowing protocol on Hedera. We're live on testnet right now. Team of 5, 3 devs and 2 marketing/business people. Mainnet is set to go live in Q3 2024. Right now it's looking like August, but we don't have any specific solidified date. We're just waiting for smart contract audits to come back from Halborn. So we're in a bit of a code freeze right now. We did do an NFT sale a while back with utility for the protocol itself. So we're using a point system for the protocol for people who are lending and borrowing assets. And for that point system, if you're a holder of a Bonzo NFT collectible, you receive a multiplier on those points if you're holding it in the account that you're using Bonzo with.
I think today we might mix it up a little bit here. And if I'll preface it again, if the Bonzo team can share the tweet from Genfinity.io with the live little video stream, that would be amazing as we ramp up into here. But so I think we've shared kind of a lot of the different aspects of Bonzo before. You guys feel free to go to bonzo.finance and this testnet dashboard. I think all you need to do is connect in your HashPack wallet. And you can kind of mess around and play in there, which I think number one, I think is really cool, because it actually gives people an opportunity to actually explore what you guys have built without necessarily getting into the weeds and with real assets and then being like, oh my God, I just lost money or X and Z. But I might, and if you don't want to go down this path, Brady, we don't have to, but I think it's important because you guys have actually taken the time to really put together, and I'll preface it with not financial advice, obviously, because we might get into some financial terms here, but some educational aspects around things like, yield and liquidity and leverage trading and things like that. Brady, I guess let me start it this way. If you were to say the word yield to 95% of people that are out there walking in the streets, do you think they would even know what you were talking about?
No, probably not. They would think it's something farming related.
100%.
Yeah, education is just so important. I think we've adopted a lot of the things that Saucer Swap, which is the leading DEX on Hedera, what they did when they first came online. They had such a strong focus on education for the ecosystem. There's a lot of people who were out there holding HBAR that maybe necessarily hadn't had experience with a decentralized exchange or really understanding sort of the core concepts of that. And they focused wholeheartedly on education with tutorials and articles and video walkthroughs and documentation and things like that. And they were widely successful in educating retail users on Hedera, but also users outside of Hedera and in other ecosystems on how to maximize utility of the Saucer Swap DEX. And so we're taking a similar approach with Bonzo. This article that you've pulled up is one of those things where we've kind of taken the most ubiquitous strategies that we've seen just across all of Web3 for lending and borrowing, and created a comprehensive document that outlines how to partake in those strategies if you should want to participate. And it is very protocol agnostic. This isn't specific advice for Bonzo. This is really just education around what we're seeing in lending and borrowing across Web3, and what other users are doing, what kinds of strategies they've employed.
100%. And I think when you look at obviously we've talked about this before, but what blockchain really represents for people and like opportunities to leverage their own assets and different things, like how big is the disconnect of value based on what you can do traditionally without blockchain, with your bank or with whatever it may be, versus like what you kind of foresee coming down the pipeline with, well, it's already here in blockchain right now, but as more liquidity comes in, as more stability comes in, as more real world assets come on chain, how do you envision kind of the future here? Like, is there any way for the incumbents to compete without integrating on some level, what blockchain kind of represents for people?
Yeah, conceptually, I think these decentralized protocols have adopted the same types of things that you could maybe do in traditional finance, and in this case with lending and borrowing of assets. But what decentralized finance does is it opens the door to a more transparent and peer-to-peer financial system, where instead of having a bank acting as an intermediary and that bank being built on business models and earning revenue off the backs of users, this decentralized model essentially allows the users themselves to extract the most value by providing assets or borrowing assets between users using smart contracts. And so, the way that I see it is that blockchain is a very disruptive technology. I don't see it as being something that necessarily augment existing models. Like, you could go that path. We're starting to see that path. There's traditional financial institutions that are talking about the tokenization of assets. And yes, there's some value in tokenizing real world assets, and being able to transfer those assets between accounts. But at the end of the day, those traditional financial institutions are built on traditional business models that require them to be acting as an intermediary. And typically there's for an exchange, for example, there's an order book, or they require people to deposit assets to the bank, and then the bank gives them a very tiny interest rate, and then they go and loan those assets out to others for a very high interest rate. And and I think that while there's some value to be had by augmenting traditional financial systems with blockchain, they're just not going to be able to extract the fullest value unless they cannibalize their business and rebuild themselves on these new business models. And and we're starting to see obviously the emergence of that with these protocols that are participating in decentralized finance today. It looks like tokens that are native to Web3, but tomorrow, as the regulatory environment improves and matures, and as the technology itself improves and matures, we're going to start to see competition with traditional finance through these protocols, and these protocols starting to eat the lunch of traditional financial institutions, and then they're going to have to respond. And we've just seen this time and time again play out, I think, with emerging technology. Whenever something this revolutionary comes around, it takes time, and it's going to take extra time, I think, just because the incumbents have a lot of power and a lot of money to remain remain intact and remain market leaders. But everyone is chipping away from many different perspectives to try and usher in this new financial system. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. It's going to take a long time, but yeah, this is the beginning of it.
I think so. It was an interesting discussion to kind of kick this, I guess, showcase session off, where Pixi, was discussing, we have all these NFTs. What can you do with the NFTs kind of afterwards? And it is fairly like similar, at least like in certain regards, where it's like, you've got an example up here for a real world example for why you might want to borrow a digital asset, right? And it's borrowing karate for, leading up to the Karate Combat event, where maybe you want to participate in the betting aspects for up only gaming and pick fighters and do X, Y, and Z. Do you see that kind of being a use case within like the NFT world too? So like, obviously, like, I mean, May was on here before with HashPack saying the collaborations they've done in the past. And if you hold, if you have a gold backpack or a purple backpack or whatever it is, and you want to get some sort of a drop from somebody that's collaborating, but you don't necessarily have one, do you feel like over time there would be like borrowing and lending aspects for NFTs as well? I mean, we kind of see some of that stuff out there right now. And you guys, I believe, are just kind of dealing from the token end of things, but where do you think the NFT aspects go in the future?
Yeah, for us, it's going to be focused on fungible tokens. RWAs is a focus as well for us on the longer time horizon. There are RWAs that exist as fungible tokens on Hedera. So Diamond Standard's Carrot fungible token is a great example of that, where it's a fungible token representation of diamonds, of a real world asset. And so you can go and buy that token on decentralized exchanges on Hedera like SaucerSwap, and I think they're getting some centralized exchange listings as well. On the NFTs front, as long as there's utility for the NFTs themselves, something that people would want to do by borrowing it, I definitely think there's value in lending and borrowing for NFTs. So like, one example is, let's say in the future, there's a musical artist that has an NFT that, gives you the opportunity to be able to purchase tickets ahead of a queue for their upcoming concert. We could say it's like Taylor Swift, who's, those tickets sell out very quickly. They're very expensive. If you're holding an NFT, you get first in line for being able to pick one up. Maybe you're a holder of the NFT and you don't, you're out of town, so you can't, you don't want to purchase the ticket for the concert. You still would love to be able to lend that NFT out. And there's probably a huge market for people that would want to have that NFT to be able to jump into the queue, to be able to get tickets. And so, that's like one example. But I do think with regards to NFT lending, it's like the NFT has to have some sort of utility. There's also things like airdrops, which are more sort of a Web3 focused use case, where if you're the holder of certain NFT, you become eligible to receive an airdrop for a specific project. There's also things like staking NFTs that are out there too, and other mechanics where there's sort of value in holding the NFT for participating in a certain activity or for holding it for a certain length of time. And I certainly could see people wanting to borrow to participate in that.
Yeah, from the community standpoint, shout out to Coinman, the H Barbarian, for this image here. But from the community standpoint, what's been the reception so far on testing out what you guys have built with Bonzo, and where do you kind of foresee that going in the future?
Yeah, so we've got an early tester role going right now in our Discord. I think there's over 600 folks that are in our Discord right now, and we've had hundreds of people testing on testnet, providing feedback, earning that early tester role. We did a campaign for the NFT sale, where if you tested it out, you get access to sort of like the first sort of like private sale or allow list sale for folks, and that campaign went really well. The response has been great. People really love the UI UX. I think our team has been incredibly focused on ensuring that the user experience is stellar, really easy to use, very informative. It's incredibly important. I feel like, especially with these protocols being open source, the two biggest moats that you can have if you're building a protocol in Web3 is building out your community and having a strong focus on those initial users, and then everyone else who joins. And then the second moat being the user experience. Those are really the two big things that you have a lot of control over. And then obviously, things like layering in additional features and functionalities and things that are unique and differentiated from other protocols for sure on a longer timeline. But yeah, community and UI UX have been just a big focus for us.
Yeah, and I think it's something that I may have touched on like a couple of times in previous spaces, but it's always amazing to me, like the amount of opportunity there is to kind of grow within blockchain just by participating in blockchain. And I don't think that exists out there like anywhere else in the world, where like, you have a lot of people that end up just being early testers or early supporters within certain ecosystems or technology primitives, whatever it is, that end up legitimately like having, major roles within organizations. Like I just did an interview with Billy from he's the executive director of the XDC Foundation. I'm like, how'd you get involved with blockchain? He's like, I started hanging out in the XDC Discord. And then like over time, you start learning about the technology, taking on a role. You mentioned
it's really like a passion and curiosity driven industry, where as long as you're interested and passionate about it and jumping in and participating, it's like the opportunities feel endless. Like when anyone asks me if they're not in Web3, but they're interested in working in the space and maybe they have like a tech background, the advice I always give them is like, well, jump on Twitter and start looking around, start following people, find something that interests you and join a community, and like just start pulling the thread on that. And that's like just the best advice. And so many jobs and opportunities and other things come out of that, I've noticed.
100%. So talk about maybe some newer, I mean, you guys are obviously in the community tester role within the Discord. I just shared that down below. What else is coming up down the pipeline that we might have missed, Brady? I feel like, like I said, I feel like this is the third or fourth time you and I have had the opportunity to do this. So I want to make sure that we're being fresh here, but maybe I did miss a couple of things here.
Yeah, the latest things are, HBAR Foundation is continuing with their DeFi Spring campaign. We're deep in summer now, so I don't know if DeFi, they may need a rebrand. But as part of that, credit markets, so decentralized lending and borrowing, is a core focus for them. This is obviously a big gap that's in the DeFi ecosystem today, and something that we're filling. And for that campaign that they're running, there are requests for proposals that are being sent out for development grants and HBAR liquidity incentives. And so the latest thing is we've submitted for that, and we're really excited to participate. Fans of HBAR Foundation, I think they're probably the only organization, like foundation organization, supporting Hedera that really understands Web3 and Web3 ecosystems really deeply, and sort of the key things that are important when it comes to growing these ecosystems. And we've got bridges coming online in August, I think, through Axelar, and I've heard discussions about Layer 0 as well. We're very excited about that personally, because we need more liquidity being able to be brought into the Hedera ecosystem. So bridging is exciting. There's Chainlink oracles that are coming online, I think, within the next couple months or so. And that includes the cross-chain interoperability protocol too, as well. Anything that's going to sort of bring greater awareness to Hedera, its retail ecosystem, and particularly DeFi, we're pretty excited about. And then our mainnet launch in shooting for August right now.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Chainlink. So Oracle's coming online, you said, in the near future. At least you've heard they're coming online in the near future. I'm surprised that wasn't earlier. I thought had Chainlink's been a governing council member for years, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is surprising. Supra and Pyth or Pyth oracles sort of beat Chainlink to market on Hedera. I am really glad that they're coming online, but agreed, I would have expected it to be sooner given their status as a governing council member.
Now, when you guys go live on, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying better late than never, though.
Better late than never. Hey, we're here. You guys going live in August. So will you plan to have, because I know right now you have the Bonzo and testnet that you can, users can kind of interact with and engage with, which we just shared. Is that going to stay up there for people as more of maybe like an educational portal, or are you planning on pulling that down? What are some of the changes from the user standpoint going to be once you guys do go live on mainnet?
Yeah, so we'll keep the testnet instance going. People will be able to access it through a link in the navigation. Everyone should be able to try this out before using real assets and participating in it. I think it's really important, to your point earlier, that people have like a low risk way of just playing around with the technology. And another important part of that is, Hedera does regular code base upgrades every 2 weeks, and that cascades from preview net to testnet to mainnet. And I'm sure you've seen the charts with regards to Hedera's like core development activity. They're cranking. They're constantly making tons of improvements, tons of changes, and it's great because you want to see a lot of development on the network and progress. At the same time, introducing a lot of changes also introduces applications on the network potentially having to update their code bases to ensure that nothing breaks with the changes that come down the line. And so, when Hedera does a code base update that rolls onto the testnet, we'll have a couple weeks to be able to make sure that everything still functions exactly as expected, so that by the time it rolls out on the mainnet, nothing's going to be broken for the user experience. So we are really looking at sort of the testnet instance as a way to ensure that by the time the code base changes reaches mainnet, there's no downtime, there's no issues for end users. We've got an amazing place to be able to sort of test that out before it rolls out to everybody.
Yeah, you mentioned the developer activity, and for those interested, this stuff all comes, it's always funny to me because if you look at where you see some of the analytics and some of the crypto news sites out there that are, showing some of these stats, like they just, it's got to be like an intentional omission of like certain networks. Hedera always seems to intentionally get omitted from results. I've seen Algorand get omitted from results too. Sentiment does a really good job. Brian from Sentiment, these guys do like social sentiment analytics as well as kind of developer activity, and that is where these stats are coming from. So take a look at Sentiment's site. I'll give Brian a shout out there. These guys are really cool.
Thoughts on that, actually. So I have seen sort of omission of Hedera in various infographics that are created. The biggest thing with that is that there are a couple very ubiquitous sources of truth for analytics that do comparison across layer 1 and layer 2 networks. So Sentiment is one where, at least from developer activity perspective, Hedera is integrated in there. They don't have a ton of on-chain analytics yet for Hedera, but I think that's coming. And then Artemis XYZ is one that Hedera is not integrated with. And then RWA XYZ is a RWA tracking one, and I think that's supposed to be coming soon. But the reason that Hedera seems to be omitted from a bunch of these infographics and reports is because those people generating the reports are going to these sources of truth for their data, because it's easy to compare chains and get the data that you need to be able to create this content. And if Hedera is not integrated into these sources of truth, then of course it's going to be omitted. And we almost can't be upset at the person who's creating the content. We really have to be looking at the source. Usually they cite the source of where they pulled that data from. And then more so, asking the question of like, well, why isn't Hedera's on-chain data in these sources of truth that bring greater awareness to the network? And so I really do hope to see Hedera's integration, into these ubiquitous analytics platforms, and Dune Analytics also is a big one.
Yeah, we talked about Dune before, I think, and yeah, I mean, you would think that it should be important for Hedera to be integrated into every single source of truth out there so that it populates among every single other network out there. Here I was sitting that it was a semantics thing. So, you'll see like blockchain developer activity, and Hedera's technically not a blockchain. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's how they got around not having Hedera. But now knowing that it's like literally if there's no integration, there's obviously no way for them to capture the analytics to showcase where Hedera stands. And it's like, maybe it's something that we should focus on to get Hedera integrated into all these sources of truth.
Exactly.
RWA.xyz is really interesting. When I was interviewing, like, again, the dude from XDC, this was the first time I looked at this site. And this is probably even new to a lot of people in Hedera. Yeah, we should definitely get some integration here, because this is a really freaking cool site. Number one, you talk about tokenization, real world assets. I mean, this is really comprehensive. So like,
well, and you can't be a market leader in tokenization of real world assets unless people can understand what it is that's been tokenized and compare that to other networks. What's this? What's this?
I mean, what is this? Top entities, $89,640,000. I mean, even the Aberdeen stuff, like a year and a half ago with the 15 billion, was it 10 or 15 billion Lux Money Market Fund?
That should be on here. Yeah. And carbon credits and a number of other things. It's from awareness building perspective, I really hope that we see Hedera's integration into these sort of ubiquitous platforms. It's really important.
Yeah, people love numbers and people love stats. So why not have the real numbers and stats standing upright against everything else, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, we gotta get that stuff squared away. But anyways, Brady, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Maybe if you want to lead us out with any forward-looking statements you might have. You said mainnet in August. If there's anything else that we might have missed, feel free. The time is now.
Yeah, mainnet in August. We're launching a safety module with staking for the Bonzo token. So when that goes live, you can participate in protecting the protocol through like a single-sided staking mechanism, essentially, where those funds go into a safety module reserve. So we're working on the development of that. And then, as mentioned before, inspired by Camino and MarginFi on Solana, we are implementing a points system that runs for 3 seasons, 6 months per season. At the end of each season, there's an airdrop that takes place, to give back to people who are participating and supporting the protocol and various activities for that. So we're really excited to roll that out, and that'll be live on day 1 of mainnet launch. Let's see what else. We're going to be at Karate Combat, actually, also. So I'll be there in Nashville in conjunction with the Bitcoin event. So, we'll have like a booth set up and, chatting with people that are at that event. And so very, very excited about that. So if you're there, stop by.
I had the opportunity to go to my first Karate Combat event in Austin at Consensus, and shout out to Only LARPing and the whole team at Karate, and shout out to Brandon HBAR Bull, who's been talking about Karate Combat for years. I mean, I think that's it's got to be probably the most impressive thing I've ever seen tied to crypto from like a real world event standpoint. So it's really cool. Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to HashPack. Obviously, we're going to be doing more of these. So for projects or community members out there, reach out to HashPack if you guys want to collaborate. I know that they're looking to do more stuff around the backpack holders, certainly, but and getting the community members involved into like voting for additional showcases like this in the future. I think they're really important. I hope the community likes these. Shout out to Pixi and Tom. Shout out to TarBot and Hashal and Cantor and Michael and everybody involved with those projects, Patches, Brandon, D, everybody that kind of plays a role there. Heisen AI and the whole team, and Bonzo. Thank you so much, Brady. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Hang out with me for 1 second here as I end the stream to make sure everything uploads properly, and let us know in the comments what you guys feel about these spaces.
Perfect. Thanks so much.